Hello, good evening, and welcome to day one of the Global Ovid Day Seminary and University GODSU Empower You Conference. I am your host, Her Excellency Kyra Eubanks, and I am so happy to be able to start off our first panel. We're actually going to begin. So with that being said, I'd like to have our moderator for our first panel, masterclass number 8, Economic Development, Financial Power Concedes Nothing Without a Demand. And that is Dean Imam Dr. Talib Sharif Chaplain, President and Imam of Nations Mosque, Masjid Muhammad, and retired U.S. Air Force, as well as GODSU Director of the Interfaith Council. All right, Imam, Dr. Talib, please go ahead and take us away. Blessings.
Okay, I'd like to first always start off with God's name, the merciful benefactor, merciful redeemer. And I want to greet you and to greet the panelists and to congratulate also GODSU on another dynamic graduation and conference. Glad to be here with you. And we have some distinguished panelists here. Okay, well, I want to start with some introductions that I have and save them some time, and they can add to it as they like. But I want to start with Reverend Dr. John Osirian. Okay, all right. Now let me let the audience know who we have before us in our Reverend Doctor here. And he says, I am a CEO of Integrated Agro-Allied Contact Center, a chaplain, consultant, technology, and business advisor. My objective is to leverage personal stories, integration strategy, and chaplaincy skills to impact the world, help the less privileged and entrepreneurs. I do offer referral partnership, prospective lead generation, and software design services, as well as legacy wealth creation business. In addition, I'm also a pastor, GODSU board member, tutor of high school students, and a New York future city judge for middle school students. I am an author of 3 books. Due to my experience and expertise, I can achieve goals at minimum time and cost, which stakeholders and customers can relate to for directions and decision-making in solving problems. My expertise is unique to my ability to serve stakeholders, employees, customers, and managers to produce desired results in a timely manner at minimum life cycle cost and risk. I'm thankful to GODSU family for making my dream come true as a chaplain towards a sustainable development of the global economy while making the world a better place. We certainly appreciate that from you, and we look to hear more from you as well, and you can feel free to add to that. But this is a dynamic picture that we're starting to get of our distinguished panelists. I want to now go to the Queen. Our beloved Queen. Is always good to be in space with her as well. For those who are not familiar with her, let me give you some information on her. Queen Mother, Her Excellency Dolores Blakely, chaplain. She is the founder and president of New Future Foundation Incorporated, a woman of compassion and caring. Queen Mother, Dr. Dolores Blakely, champions the aspirations of women, children, and youth. She criticizes mankind for the economic injustice that has degraded billions of lives worldwide and champions education, basic training, microcredit, entrepreneurship, and heart as potential solutions. A community fellow at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology and education policy fellow of the International Education Leadership, a Fulbright scholar in Tanzania and Nigeria. Queen Mother, Dr. Dolores Blakely received 2 Master of Education degrees from Harvard University and a Doctorate of Education degree from Teachers College. She graduated from Franciscan Handmaids of Mary College, and that was in 1965, with a Bachelor of Science degree in Religious Studies, and she has published scholarly and popular books and articles on self-reliance, education, recreation, and culture. Another dynamic picture of a panelist. We're going to be looking forward to hearing from you as well. I want to now go to Dr. Glenwood Warren. He's also a chaplain. He is the founder and executive director of Fathers Forever, father, founder, executive director, motivational speaker, author. Glenwood Warren Sr. as a single parent who has raised 3 children to adulthood. And here are the names: Glenn Warren II, Anthony Warren, and Celeste Warren. Glenn understands the power and necessity of fathers being a contributing, positive presence in the lives of their children. He is a Wake County Human Services retired social worker, counselor who has 25 years of experience in working with people who suffer with mental illness, such as depression, suicidal thoughts, substance abuse, and other issues. In June of 2020, Glenn received certification as a certified coach with a concentration in co-parenting from Accredited Alliance Coaching. He is a well sought out motivational speaker because of his unique ability to communicate and compel his audience to look at life from another vantage point. He also does this through his writing and telling of inspirational short stories. In April of 2015, Glenn added published author to his list of accomplishments. Chat and Chew, consisting of 31 easy to read short stories. This is an inspirational, devotional, practical, and motivational work that's designed to encourage the reader to look at life from another perspective. In October 2017, Glenn added, When Love Is Not Enough, the breaking of a child to his catalog, those as well. These 12 easy to read short stories serve as a mirror to help parents who are struggling with co-parenting observe their behaviors, evaluate them, and if necessary, correct them. His latest book, I Am a Father Forever. This was published in October 2021, and it provides a blueprint to his mission of healing fathers, saving families, and also serves as Fathers Forever University's lead textbook. As founder and executive director of a 501(c) nonprofit organization, Fathers Forever, Glenn has been involved in the empowerment of men for over 25 years as a facilitator of various conferences formed to encourage and empower men to discover the combination to unlocking their future. Glenn founded Fathers Forever in 2008 because he knows firsthand the importance of the role of a father that it has in the lives of children. And about Fathers Forever, what began in 2008 as a 501(c) organization established to help fathers chart a new course of fatherhood has now become a resource for all men. And it's much more. And we look to hear more from you, Dr. Warren, as well. It's quite a bit. Now we want to go to Dr. Sidney Antalian. He's a CEO and founder of SidSpot. He is known professionally as Chef Sid, the talented cook. Started his company in Humble, Texas in 2019, serving some of the boldest flavors in gourmet cooking than anyone has ever experienced, The young chef started preaching in 2004, becoming a young pastor, helping our next generation of kids discover that God is love, and that same love is in you. We need to have you on that panel coming up later on about this mentoring in these youth, man. That's dynamic. Sidney is currently providing pastoral services to Allie's House of Refuge in Corrigan, Texas, and he is the CEO of SidSpot Catering. As the founder of SidSpot, he says, I have collaborated with many great cooks in different restaurants to seek new ways to communicate to the customers of Plale, providing the best service and high quality food on this side of heaven. As pastor, he has been recognized from senior pastors for his tenacity and unweaving passion to please God and lead others to Christ. When Sidney is not working to improve on his techniques in cooking and providing the tools to protect the quality of life, he spends time with his wife and his 5 children. We look forward to hearing more from you. That's quite a bit as well. I want to now go to, we have 2 more, looks like we have. Mr. William Page. He is a motivational speaker. BJ Page is the first ever returning citizens liaison for Prince George's County, Maryland. BJ is a top workforce development motivational speaker. He has numerous accolades to include specializing as a motivational influencer, master workshop facilitator, and career coach. As a workforce development leader, he is highly successful in the space of help for the at-risk and underserved community. He was recently awarded the DMV 48 Men of Power and the Greater Washington Community Foundation Emerging Leadership Award, the inaugural award of its kind. He truly serves the people in many impactful ways. He was top 40 under 40. He was honored with the Maryland General Assembly Official Citation Awardee for his community commitment. He was awarded the Citizen of the Year from Omega Psi Phi Fraternity and awarded the Real Good People Award with the radio station WPGC 95.5 and more. We want to congratulate you. We look forward to hearing from you as well. And the last one, but not the least, certainly, we have Assistant Dean.
Charles.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate that greatly. He is the founder, executive director, Global Child Health and Safety Initiative, assistant dean at G.O. Charles Oneonachia, executive director, Global Child Health and Safety Initiative. He is a certified child care professional with Texas Department of Family and Protection Services. That's USA. As well as a certified mental health counselor from Sun Behavioral Health USA. He studied child care at Texas A&M University and has distinction certificates in children's human rights from the University of Geneva and many other world-renowned institutions. He is a highly sought-after speaker, trainer, and has attempted and facilitated numerous conferences, seminars, workshops, and symposia in child care all over the world. He is a passionate child rights advocate who has extensive experience working with at-risk youth and abused children, DSU, Nigerian enrollment panelists. So we're very glad to have our panelists. You've heard about our panelists that we have. Help me where we need to. So this is a dynamic panel that we have right now. And of course, this panel deals with financial. And we got a quote. This is a part of a quote. And of course, we know the quote says, power concedes nothing without a demand. And of course, this is dealing with the financial side, and of course, economic power is certainly heavy in here. So that quote, and we know that first came from Frederick Douglass in the 1840s. So very powerful. I want to hear from each one of you what that means to you, and we have some diversity here from our distinguished panelists. So we're looking to hear your thoughts on that alone. Financial power concedes nothing without a demand. Let's start with the Queen.
First of all, give all praise and glory to that force greater than ourselves. And Queen Mother would start, if you're talking about finance, I start in the spirit of my ancestor for the greatest crime ever committed against my ancestors, which I have agitated the United Nations for about 53 years, 50 years celebrating my anniversary for humanitarian work in the presence of really many member states of the United Nations and agitating them for that crime for myself personally. And that is $3 trillion as a down payment for the greatest crime ever been committed against humankind. And so Queen Mother has indulged with Wall Street, where my ancestors were sold. And so as we move into conceive and power, economics would definitely be a part of that, and human capital. And so I just wanted to lie that in the spirit energy of our young people, empowerment, and what it would mean to them. And as the queen mother of the hip hop generation, and been engaged with youth for many, many moons, and still engaged with them from intergenerational relationships, you are correct, but they must understand what is power and conceive with that demand that they must be looking for sustainable, and we could say the word economics, but what does that really mean in investing in ourselves for that sustainable and holistic approach to survive and to live and to enjoy life itself. So I would leave it right there as a part of an opening conversation with Queen Mother just returning from the Jubilee of Queen Elizabeth and Manchester, UK. And from there, and watching what is nobility and leadership of women, that mother energy, which she is at the age, I think, of 96 and 70 years of giving of services to society. And what does that mean in the focus of Mother Africa, who rocks civilization into its destined place throughout the global world of energy. So Queen Mother going to leave it there. It's a part of opening a conversation of renewedness and freshness after the pandemic for our young people. And so Queen Mother will yield the chair at this time, and I thank you.
No, thank you, Queen Mother, and you certainly have taken us back, and you are connecting with really a destiny that as a people, we as a people had. Again, that statement was made by Frederick Douglass, and we know his situation, having been in slavery, freed himself, and then been able to become a statesperson. And that his life exemplifies that. So that statement about power concedes nothing without a demand, and his life certainly says that there has to be a demand. But I certainly looking for more drawdown. If you've connected us with what we've inherited, and then our obligation to move forward with what we've inherited into a brighter future for ourselves. So look more for that, Queen Mother. I want to now go to Dr. Warren, if you can give us your thoughts on that statement.
Yes, greetings all, especially Queen Mother. Thank you for that. That was very inspirational. Smart people are moved by what they want. Wise people are moved by what they don't want. And I say that because money drives us, and it's our inheritance, it's our legacy. It's the thing that we leave to each other, our kids, our family. And so if I'm smart, I want a car. I want a nice, BMW. I want a nice Audi. But what I don't want is a $700 payment. So wise people, even though they're moved by what they want, they're moved by what they don't want. And so as we begin to leave legacies to our families, our friends, our family, especially our friends, we have to look at our debt ratio and look at what we're getting into debt-wise, that we can leave our sons and daughters a legacy. A legacy means to stand on one's shoulders. So if I'm going to die, I want to leave my kids, I want to leave my grandkids something to stand on that they could take and pass on to their generation. As the king of my house, as the priest of my house, it's my responsibility is make sure that I'm leaving a legacy, not only just for my kids, but for my grandkids. And one guy said, you know, when his son got married, he gave his son a $10,000 check. And then he said, well, this is a promise that when you have your first son, when he get married, you leave him a $20,000 check. Because that legacy is now passed on from one generation to the next generation, and they have something. So in the event of your death, we have to make sure we have insurance policies that could, you know, our families, they're sad on Sunday morning when they bury us. But Monday morning on the way to the bank, when they cash that $100,000 policy, a $500,000 policy that we leave to them because of the legacy, they can either go back to school, you know, buy some things that they need, because it's important for us to pass on to the next generation what she said earlier about our ancestors. That is passed on to the next generation, that gives them a leg to stand on, so to speak, as opposed to taking the time to get by, you know, getting again what we want. It's okay to get what you want if you can afford it. But if you can't afford it, get what you know, I don't want that big payment, because I have to be responsible as a father and as a husband, and to make sure that I'm taking care of my kids and and my grandkids for that matter, because they, you know, so in this economic world that we're living in now, how do we invest in ourselves? So how do we invest wisely? You know, taking $25 or $30 a month and putting it away, that can add up to, you know, the different things that we do. And it makes a big difference when we do pass away that we have. I remember when my brother got into, you know, he had a brain tumor and he passed away. And the day that he passed away, we all sitting around the house, you know, we crying, we grieving, but the phone rang and I answered the phone. It was a lady that he worked for, a company. And he had left both my mom and my dad $100,000 policy. And that was 20 years ago. So $100,000 would mean a lot more than it did now. But the fact that he left my mom and dad, you know, $100,000 each, it didn't take away our grieving. We still grieved, but we rejoiced in the fact that my mom was like, my son thought enough of me to take out this policy on him. And he wasn't sick when he took out the policy, obviously. But that's what we have to do. And we look at this economic world. We have to make sure that we are investing, number one, in ourselves. Number two, we are invested in our families and in our communities. So
thank you. So we want to. I certainly appreciate that, Dr. Warren. And again, you mentioned a lot of things in what you just said. Certainly, you're speaking about legacies and about inheritance. You know, the body in what you're saying, the body inherits the past. You don't exist without it. My physical body, what I've inherited, firstly, are my mother and father, and in them are their mother and father. So I inherit that. So the present inherits the past. And like you were saying, when you inherit something, first of all, you have a responsibility to do something with what you've inherited. And you are showing in your statement that the demand has to be on yourself.
yes,
You have to first start that demand on yourself. And if you don't start the demand on yourself, then certainly it's not going to be on the family, and then certainly can't go to the community. So we and it's a lot again and more in what you. So let me move on now, and we want to hear from Chaplain BJ. Your thoughts on that?
Man, first off, thank you, GODSU. Thank you, His Excellency, for allowing this, and Chancellor. You know, I appreciate you and love you. But Dr. Sharif, as I listen, man, and one of the words that you said was demand. So coming from the economic development space, and I'm kind of looking at you guys here, coming from the economic development space, man, it really makes me think, because economic development is like the creation of what wealth looks like, and the word that Queen Mother spoke on, and the word that Dr. Warren spoke on, and the word that you ended on, Dr. Sharif, don't even realize it, was community. So of course, the people in our space, the people who are of the know, have a little more, I guess, leverage on what it looks like for the growth for economic development. But that demand piece is the piece that I really would like for us to really, sit on. I know we can't talk on it for the next 10 minutes, but the people in the community, the people behind us, our families, our friends, our neighbors, they may not be privy to the knowledge that we have. So I just want to say, if nothing else, Dr. Sharif, this information and the knowledge that we're getting from this Empower Day One, Empower You Day One, make sure that we pass this along to our community and our neighbors so they'll get this good information.
Excellent, excellent. I'm also, I really appreciate it. And I'm also hearing in your statement, they say that information and knowledge is power. But what I hear you saying is that if you utilize it, it's power. Just to have it is not power, but if you utilize it, it's powerful when you connect that demand with it. So thank you. We look to hear more from you. We want to now move to Chaplain Sidney. Your thoughts.
Yes, sir. Chaplain Menifee here. Thank you to everybody on the panel today. Economic development to me is kind of echoing from what I've already heard from Mother Queen and Brother Glenn. And my best thinking and from what I have seen is certainly more about the wealth in the community, and I think that starts with I don't want to just say the low income or the people that's in poverty. I want to say as a community as a whole, because we're all in it together. So I'm not going to make it a black, white, Latino thing, or, I really feel like to actually thrive and have good economic things work, it has to be beneficial to all. Meaning like, we live separate ways, separate homes, separate this, separate that, everybody. And then I think Brother Glenn even spoke on like with cars and this, and you get all these different brackets. So you get to the poor, the wealthy, the medium class. And so it's more about helping your brother to me, especially when it comes down to the economic part of it. And just making sure that you look out for your community. And the one way I know I can do that is to sit down, hone in on what I can do to create it. So that means that I got to be good enough and I got to be better than I was the day before in order to install these ideas and creativities in the next generation and to my peers and anybody else that has an ear to hear it. So a lot of people don't want to hear it. A lot of people want to get rich scheme and all of this, stuff that don't make sense. But the real fortitude for me to grasp it when it's talking about economic development is that we got to start from a business mindset. You got to already have a business mindset, like to get up and get going and find your passion, and then find some people that love what you love and you love what they love, so y'all can actually build a community that can actually make generational wealth. So y'all can all stick together because you're bonded, and you can't be broken once you started from that era. If you started from, oh, you got yours, let me see what I can do to get it, or what we're doing, it's actually distracting you from the end goal. And that's for next generations to see way more than we will ever see in our lifetime. And that's the beautiful thing about it to me.
Wonderful, Chaplain Menifee. Really appreciate that. And again, you are building on what was said, and because you brought in the term brother, we hadn't heard that term brother like you use it right now, and across the community with that. And what we are seeing in all of you so far that have spoken is that it's not a selfish. That's not what this is speaking about. You're speaking in the collective, the collective power. This is what the demand has to come into and be a collective voice and a collective resolve to make sure that those who seek to have power over us, that we were able to remove ourselves from under that and empower ourselves. Thank you, Chaplain Sidney. I want to now move to our assistant dean. Charles, I can say Charles, and so I want to hear from you now, and appreciate your thoughts on that as well. So we're listening.
Yeah, so essentially, personally, I've always believed that the reason we are empowered financially, socially, emotionally, spiritually, is to empower other people. I have always, had this as my mindset when it comes to any form of empowerment. Whatever resource, whether it's material or ethereal, that, we owe it as a debt to posterity to not only lay solid structures down right now that will enable us have a good living during our time here on earth, but to also pay it forward. by putting landmarks in time for those that are coming behind us. So indeed, whether it's financial prosperity or whatever, there has to be a demand on it. First of all, from the individual who is blessed with this opportunity. What demands do you place on that which has been given to you? How do you see it? What is the purpose of it in your mind? How do you define that? The parameters of what you have and how they in turn will impact the society, impact those in your generation, impact those coming behind you. So this for me is summary, what all there is to being empowered in any way, whether it's material, financial, physical, spiritual. That's my take. Thank you.
Wonderful, and certainly appreciate that. And again, this is wonderful how this is coming as it's building. Speaking about the generations to come, and now you say, how's it going? What we do now, how that demand is shaped, how does that impact those to come, the generations to come after us? And then you're asking more questions now that we should ask ourselves. How do we define it? What is our comprehensive idea of what that should be? You know, there's a sense of direction that you've given us in your statement, and then also, again, what is the comprehensive idea of what it should be? So thank you. And again, last but not least, Dr. John, we want to now hear your thoughts and your voice added to the panelists before we go to the next question.
I'm very, very thankful to the Chancellor and again to Imam Dr. Talib for your moderation. Very thankful also to the Queen Mother and Warren, Dr. Warren, and every other person that has spoken. So I sort of have a base and a foundation on which I have to stand when it comes to financial empowerment and then the demand for it. So it's all actually based on supply and demand. So when you look at one side, the beginning, the originator, God said in his word that I am the one that gives you power to make wealth. So when you look at that, that's the first thing we always consider. And then who are those really needing this power and who needs the wealth? So I have been able to look at it as somebody also who has a service on legacy wealth. When Dr. Warren was talking about it, I was so impressed. You see, it starts from one phase and one step to the other. You see, one statement I would like to just quickly say is to Dr. Miles Monroe of blessed memory. He once said something, and I always take it. He said, God created the world and nothing grew from the earth until there was a man. He said, what is it? What was he talking about? You see, you need a manager to be able to manage the resources of the earth. And then you need to understand what are these resources and on what do they stand. You see, this is unique value being converted into wealth. And I've seen it and I know that the one thing that is common in all is purpose. When you're talking about empowerment, you don't talk about purpose. There is a missing link behind that. And once you've started talking about empowerment that is based on purpose, then those that are really demanding for it has three things. Number one, it has to be the physical investment. Somebody also, talk about that, the physical investment, and then the professional investment, and also the personal investment. So these three P's counts. They are the force that are demanding for this power and for this wealth. Then, lastly, not because of time, we need to also talk about the digital age we are. The digital man is demanding something different. If you have to go traditionally, the way you used to go do the marketing, and now you want to say, okay, let me do it. Oh, the millennials, oh, the generation next, and all that. Oh, they have a different perspective. And once they are not able to grab it or get it, the wealth is diminishing, and they cannot be able to control how far it's going to go. So therefore, I am saying to everyone that hearing the sound of my voice that this is key, and I thank God for this topic, that the digital transformational age is saying they need value for their time and for their money. And if you are not able to provide this, you just cannot be able to improve on the empowerment. And the empowerment is to perform. So the performance is not going to be balanced. And there will never be a total alignment where that cash will continue to flow. So therefore, I really want to say that indeed we need an alignment, a total alignment that starts with the base, the purpose, and again, those that are demanding it from the inside, meaning internal transformation being converted into external confirmation for legacy wealth. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Dr. John. We really appreciate that, as we've heard from everyone, and of course, you've our Queen Mother took us back to our life here in how our life started here on these lands. But you, Dr. John, took us back to the creation, and now you connected that with, first of all, I guess we in terms of power and the demand is, we have to first understand our creative purpose. If we don't understand our creative purpose, in which you're showing that we are here really to be custodians, to make improvements on, to add, to be productive. And so in your statement, you were saying that, and of course you mentioned key elements in terms of the types of resources. You mentioned physical, professional, personal. And so you and of course in personal, you're really talking about the three parts of the self too: physical, mental, and spiritual. So we are saying that really we are not we are going to concede unless we go into this wholeheartedly, not part of ourselves, but the whole self has to go into this. And you mentioned purpose. I will share this story. Malcolm, many of us know Malcolm and some of his story, and his trying to get to the purpose piece. He was in elementary school, and we know his story. He wanted to be a lawyer. His teacher asked him, "What do you want to be?" And he said, "I want to be a lawyer." And of course, the teacher told him, "You can't be a lawyer." Looking at the time he's in, said, "You can be a janitor or a carpenter." And of course, we know at that time, if we know anything about the story of Malcolm, he was the only Black in a white school. They were all whites, but he was the top student among all of them. And then, so now he wants to be something, and the teacher tells him he can't be that. So something inside of him says, "Well, why am I doing this? Why am I excelling?" And then we know at that point, his life begins to go down, and then he begins to get into trouble. And of course, one of the things you were speaking about, Dr. John, there's a concept called DAP. desire, and desire really is connected to purpose. When we do with our children all the time, and I certainly see this in our chancellor and her children. They have there's a certain desire connected. Really, that's saying that just like that finger, everybody got their own fingerprint that nobody else has. That's something that God put into them, and that desire is really saying that you have the ability. You have the ability. God gave you that ability because that's where the desire is coming from, and that desire equals ability is now seeking its performance, which means that is now wanting to do what my created purpose is. And if we miss who we are, going back to what everybody's saying, we miss who we are. We're going to always be in a situation where we are going to concede because we haven't put the right demand on ourselves and understanding what we're here for in the collective, not the individual, but in the collective. That's how we're going to be able to go forward. So good. You all know there's a saying that says, for every word, there's a thought. For every thought, there's an action. And for every action, there's a character. And for every character, there's a destiny. And so it all goes back really to the thought and to the thinking. And I want to get your thoughts on this right here. Carter G. Woodson said, if you control a man's thinking, you don't have to worry about his actions. And I know some of that has a lot to do with where we are, but I want to get your thoughts on that relative to the topic. And so let's just kind of reverse it a little bit. Dr. John, you want to give some thoughts on that?
Thank you so much for this opportunity again and for all these topics. I don't know how you selected them, but they are coherent and, in fact, needful to us and the society. See, another thing says, seeth a man who cannot really imagine or see afar off, or cannot again be able to evaluate what he has seen. No matter what he gets in the future, it will always draw him back, because the first thing is the thinking. That is the mindset. Well, in the Bible, we say in Ephesians chapter 3, verse 20, make us to understand that actually that God is able to do according to the power that is at work in us, in our thinking, and again, in our talking. So these two things. And he went further to make us understand that he separated maybe the Christians, or rather those that really believe in God, and then those that don't believe in God. That if you want to really excel in this world, you must not conform to the world system. The reason why he's saying that, he said you must renew your mind daily. That is transformation. What is this trying to tell us about mindset? It's trying to make us really understand that that is where purpose can be achieved. That is where purpose is born. That is where we can realize who we are. That is where dream and vision is born. It's in the inside, first of all. That is your uniqueness. That's your ability. Once you miss that, and then you come out and present yourself, the rest is all struggle. So we need really to know how we think. And we need to know that as a man thinks in his heart or in his mind, so is he. So if you are going to become whatever you want to become, it has to be in your thinking and in your thoughts.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
And that what you quoted there, it says a whole lot, because it's connecting your thinking with your heart. It's connecting and thinking and heart together, which means you have to care about it. And that's what the heart means. You have to care about it, be concerned about it as well. And you is also in your statement, this economic dignity, economic destiny, and economic dignity is connected to how we think, how we think. So Queen Mother, your thoughts on that, your thoughts on that. And of course, again, the quote from Carter G. Woodson is, if you control a man's thinking, you do not have to worry about his action.
I think it's important that if you control a man's consciousness, you're correct. But I think that within the movement, as I look at young people, I'm using them as a part of the conversation. Why do many of them rebel? What is that about? Who's controlling what? What mind are they controlling, by who? When I believe there's a force greater than them, which they may not understand that particular force. I have some bad young people. When I say bad, they like Bumpy Johnson. I used to spend time with Shafts in the streets of Harlem. Rule and control and govern and destine self. That's what he did. And he went about it in a way that he understood it. I believe that many of our youth today, with that rebellion spirit, they have no intentions of allowing anyone to control them. Is portrayed in front of them that cause execution on them. And I say that because I watched them at play. I watched them on 125th Street. It's amazing as I watch them. And what I see in them, and sometimes I say it to them, what's up? Peace. Fear God and God alone. Only God, stay on the sacred path, fear God and God alone. And they would say to me, Mama, we got you. We feel you. So with that strength of godliness within them, how do we wrap our nurturing around them to steer them in a way their strength of that controlling them, move away from them, that they'll be able to move into tranquility and peace in their development of their innate gifts. Only God and God alone has given them. So being the queen mother of hip hop, and I have my only pair of sneakers given to me from Boogie Down the Bronx. If you know anything about the rhythm and the understanding, Boogie Down all over the world as I go out and see children in the nigger desert of the world, looking at the hip hop generation as their leadership because of that spirit energy, no fear. How do we begin to nurture our children of understanding that they can holistically balance their gifts and serve beyond themselves and their own community? I would say it's very deep for me as an elder, studying them and watching them for many years. And how do we begin to use what we see in nurturing and leading them on the path of righteousness and greatness?
Wonderful.
And so I leave it there, and I thank you.
Yeah, no, we thank you, Queen Mother. You really tapped into and really dealing with the dynamic soul of an oppressed people. You know, I need to share this because it came out in my mind when you was thinking. I was thinking about this as you were saying about, you know, you talked about the consciousness of young people and faith. You know, I spent time with one of the main fighter pilots of Tuskegee Airmen before I retired with 30 years from the United States Air Force. And we were sitting with him for lunch in Atlanta and asking him about their age and the things they've accomplished. And he was mentioning that they were 15 years old, 16, 17 years old, many of them. And of course, they did superior things with inferior equipment. And of course, the people that were sitting around the table, they asked him, they said, so are you saying that that's the potential that our young people have to do the kind of things you all did as teenagers, basically, 15, 16, 17 years old, being able to perform with inferior equipment over those who had superior training, superior equipment, and to do that? And of course, they were surprised with his answer, Queen Mother, because he told them, he said, no, that doesn't tell us the potential of our young people today. He said this, he said, back then, he said, we were conscious. He said, we were conscious, we believed in God, and we believed in ourselves. He said, in order for our young people to have that potential that we had, we have to elevate their consciousness. And then that would kick in the potential. And he said, most of them are not conscious. Most of them are not conscious. And that's something that we have to engage. So thank you, Queen Mother. So they're giving me some more time. So I want to go to Chaplain Sidney. Your thoughts on this, on the thinking piece.
Yes, sir, I'm here. So it was, I believe, if you control a man's thinking,
yes,
you do not have
to worry about his actions.
Worry about his actions. And so it led me to go see exactly what control was. And it says power to influence or direct people's behavior or the course of events. Then the second one was a group or individuals used as a standard of compassion for checking the results of a survey or experiment. So when I read the word control, I kind of get into what Mother was saying. And I think now more than ever, and I'm an 80s baby, so I know there was a lot of drugs that was flowing in America. And I'm just going to speak on that. I'm not going to stay there long, but the drug epidemic that's going on now with our children, they're starting younger and younger. And not only is their mind undeveloped, that's first and foremost, they are putting so many toxins in their body and they're using multiple drugs. They're not just using one or two, they're mixing and matching, and they're not mature enough to even know what they're doing to their body or their mind. So that's one way you can control. And what I was reading, it says individuals, or it also says as a group. So that's how you can control a group. The black man was controlled because they said he was a third of a man, a third of a human. And when you tell somebody how they are not something, then they begin to believe it. And so I believe what's going on with our children, with our youth, with our economy, this is a really deep conversation. I'm glad we're having it. And I'm so proud of the panelists that's been giving and expressing everything they have. And I'm not getting off topic, I just had to say that. But I'm definitely looking more into it, how to continue to mold these kids, get these groups of kids. And it does stop with it's got to stop with the hip hop music for one. We know why they're doing it. It's to fill up the prisons. You know, they need a 95% people to be filled in those prisons. They have to have it. They're actually getting paid. So that's why the hip hop community is going towards the era that they're in, is to keep our children in jail. It's to get them to go to jail, whether Black, white, Puerto Rican, whatever it is. They're using that music to infiltrate their mind to send them to jail. And they don't care what age they get them at. They like to start them young so they can have a troubled past to get them in trouble when they try to build a future. And it's so hard whenever you do go to jail, you come out, you can't do anything anyway. So that's how you control the people. That's how you control the economy as well. So if you get them young, then they don't know anything about the generation. So it's up to us to teach them differently than what they're hearing out of the speaker. You know, so the fatherless, the fathers have been removed from the home as well. So we just have to get back to telling these kids that they're not abandoned. And drugs ain't the answer. And you know, a lot of the times they think that their friends know more than we know. And they act like we ain't never been there before. So we can see it. We just have to figure out a way to implement these new ideas. And the digital technology that's coming, what Dr. John was speaking about, that's another way to interpret where we're going to go as far as basis the economy and how we can control so we get the outcome we would like to see at GODSU. Thank you.
No, thank you. Yeah, you taking us back and you connecting back with what the Queen Mother was just saying about that. If you control a person's conscience, and you are showing the kind of things that keeps us unconscious. So we can't come into the financial power that we can as a people because of these distractions that are in our way. You know, that has weakened us and calling us to take our mind, is say, keep your eye on the prize. You know, our eyes have been taken off the prize and we've gotten into the convenience of things, you know, the things they've thrown in our way. So no, we appreciate what you're sharing. And I see the whole team, the team is in front of us here, the Chancellor. And I want y'all to know the Chancellor spanked me because I didn't have my background. But she knows I was rushing though, trying to get in here, but she did spank me. So I apologize for that. So I guess y'all trying to tell me it's time. I know again, we were late, but this panel is, this is a very important topic because really our success, really economic power, economic dignity, you know, this financial piece is a very important piece. And that's one of the things that distinguishes GODSU because they have a very powerful interest, a powerful platform for financial health and financial education and well-being. And you got a lot of people that's invested in business and everything else that's a part of this right here, which it distinguishes it from a lot of other universities that don't have that. And as a young university, to have that as a key piece, it brings the spiritual and the material. And of course, we can't move as human beings. We're invisible and we're visible. So we need them both. So we got to have material presence. And of course, one of the things I thought about when I joined GODSU is they used to call us in slavery, used to call us spooks. And one of the reasons they call us that is because they say we didn't have anything material. We didn't have a body. We were just spiritual, praying and everything. And so we have to have material. We have to have things in society that we produce, that we see ourselves in order to give us. That's the demand we got to put on ourselves. And that's what I hear the panel saying. The demand has to be on us to bring out, to build upon the excellence that God started us out with as human beings. And so I guess I'm going to turn it over to our dynamic leaders here at this point, and they can give us our further instructions from there. You have it.
Wonderful job, Dr. Talib Sharif. That was fantastic. And I really enjoyed the conversation. I wrote down a few points before we actually transition into the next panel, which I think will be very much a great segue into talking about mentorship or, you know, the idea of unity intergenerationally. But before I say that, Chaplain Glenwood Warren, when you talked about legacy and this concept of standing on the shoulders of your ancestors, I wholly believe and truly agree with you, because you have to realize that when we are born in this body, right, we are starting off from where our ancestors left off, right? We are carrying on the mantle, right? We are passing on the baton. We're having the baton passed to us, and then we pass it on to the next generation. So I think it's really important when we talk about financial empowerment and also literacy as well, that we're making sure that we're keeping it generationally focused, and we're also making sure to have intergenerational dialogue to continue the knowledge, to continue the resources, and make sure that the next generation is well equipped. So I think that that is a wonderful segue into our next panel. And I just want to thank all of our illustrious panelists, as well as our incredible moderator, Imam Dr. Talib Sharif of Masjid Muhammad. It's always wonderful to see you, and we're just so grateful to have you here.
Thank you. I really appreciate you on what you've shared. Very vital, very important information. This is going to be categorized. I hope others will benefit from what you shared as well. Thank you.